What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're talking dynasty trades today. We're actually diving into over 100 dynasty trades, looking at every pick that happened in your rookie drafts in the first round. We're using DLF's ADP, looking at where those guys were going. So Caleb Williams, talking about kind of what their value is right now, right? So we've already seen them drafted now. They're no longer picks. So we're going to go through all kinds of trade scenarios. Should you be trading, selling high already on rookies? Or if you're contending or rebuilding, where are you at? Over 100 trades here, diving into dynasty trades and having some fun with it. This is the whole point now. We're starting to see definitely value. We're going to be looking at keep trade cut value, trades, just outcomes, and looking at all of the rookies that we can. And the last area of this video where we've been talking about second round guys, and I'm gonna give you a bunch of trade options there. But let's start with Caleb Williams. What do we expect from Caleb? What is his dynasty value? It's definitely improved, right? So we're looking at overall at his dynasty value, what he's getting valued at. Keep trade cut, he's at QB6. Here at TDR, we have QB8, but this is probably the highest we've seen his value all off season, right? We know the depth chart. We know his outlook. He looks like he is the best setup for rookie quarterbacks in a long, long time. They brought in every weapon they could. Keenan Allen, Odunze. They've shored up that offensive line. The running back room. They got everything there. So what is his value moving forward? What are some trades out there that maybe you can either capitalize on or you can go get him, right? So here are some trades that we're looking at in terms of Caleb Williams' value. These are all Superflex tied in premium, by the way. 1.5 tied in premium, 12 teamers. Caleb Williams for Joe Burrow, straight up. So again, if you're looking at like, hey, you want to get in that top 4 right now, right? So we're thinking of Joe Burrow. If you think of him there, many have him at QB5. Some have him behind Caleb Williams. That's why you're seeing this. Joe Burrow is attainable there. Another one, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze at second for Mark Andrew, Jared Goff, and A.J. Brown. Yeah, I will say this. You're going to see a lot of Jared Goff trades now throughout these trades that we're doing. The reason why is because he got his contract. So now his dynasty value is definitely been solidified. You're looking at QB 14-ish range. So you're going to see some people being comfortable trading for Jared Goff, having him as their QB2 if they have a guy like Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Patrick, Josh Allen, those type of prospects in there. Now, other deals that we've seen, Caleb Williams straight up for Lamar Jackson, Caleb Williams for Cook and Kyler Murray. So again, you can use these deals both ways. Hey, I want to go trade for Caleb, or hey, I have Caleb, but I'm willing to kind of move off of for that price, right? Caleb Williams, Xavier Leggett for Stafford, Marvin Harrison Jr. So you get that wide receiver in Harrison Jr., but Matthew Stafford coming back, you really like him. Maybe you need a QB2, and you already have a very top 5 guy. And then Caleb Williams straight up for Anthony Richardson, which I think is pretty fun when you're looking at just QBs overall and where they're kind of going right now in terms of both those guys. It's interesting to see kind of what their value is and what their dynasty value is as well. So that's Caleb Williams' value, where he's going in rookie drafts, and where he's at a keep trade cut. This is the highest I've seen Caleb Williams. Number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver 5 overall in keep trade cut. Wide receiver 4 here at TDR. Obviously he's set up. Christian Williams wrote about it in our Substack. It is hard to imagine a scenario where Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't a top 12 wide receiver, even as a rookie. And I think he could be in the top 5. I think that from a fantasy perspective, in that system, in that just targets available, like he's their guy moving forward. You have to love the depth chart and outlook for him. He's going as wide receiver 102, and the trades out there are interesting. So let's dive into them. Marvin Harrison Jr. for Puka Nacua and a second, right? So Puka sitting around there, that top 8 range. I still would rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. I know that's blasphemous for my Nacua truthers out there, but if I can tier up and get Marvin Harrison Jr. just for a second, I don't mind doing that. Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Pittman for CeeDee Lamb at 27 first. I will say the one player I see consistently out there is CeeDee Lamb, right? So, pivoting off of Marvin Harrison Jr. for CeeDee Lamb, I've seen that in multiple leagues. So again, if you want to maybe go target CeeDee Lamb, you're a contender. You had Marvin Harrison Jr., but based on just capital, you're able to acquire him in the drafts. Let's say you made a great trade. Maybe you pivot to CeeDee Lamb, who's going to be peppered with targets this year. Then we have Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. for Reed, Michael Pittman, and Sam Laporta. Thought that was interesting because you're pairing up both Harrison Jr. and McBride. Then Baker Mayfield, Marvin Harrison Jr. for Justin Jefferson. So you're seeing Marvin Harrison Jr. get moved for those top 3 or 4 wide receivers, and that is what's going to take to pair with him to move up in that tier, right? They're pretty much in the, I don't want to say they're in the same tier yet. He hasn't played a snap yet, but from a value perspective, they're in the same tier. Then you have Marvin Harrison Jr. for Kyle Pitts, Jordan Love, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. first for Jahmyr Gibbs and Dalton Kincaid. All deals that I really like. I love that bottom one, though, if you're kind of rebuilding for Gibbs and Dalton Kincaid, getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and possibly a mid-first, in 2025. I think that's heck of a value there. Now, at the 103, we have Jayden Daniels, QB 12 overall and keep trade cut, the highest we've probably seen him, QB 14 here at TDR. Analysis-wise, Jayden Daniels is set up. He's going to be in the driver's seat in that offense. They've done a really good job. If the Bears have the best weapons, I think Commanders have 1C, I guguess. I don't want to call it 1B because they definitely need to step up. But I love Terry McLaurin. I love Jahan Dotson, Ben Sinnott. When you're looking at the running back room with Brian Robinson, Chris Rodriguez, they've done a really good job of adding to that room and building around him. Offensive line still shaky, though. I think that's the big thing with Jayden Daniels and the Commanders moving forward. When you see the trades that have been going for him, Jayden Daniels in a second for Jared Goff in a first. So there's that Jared Goff out there just kind of hanging around. I saw a ton of Jared Goff deals. Jayden Daniels, Jalen Waddle for Chris Godwin and Caleb Williams. So if you want to kind of tier up to Caleb, you might have to give up a Waddle. Are you willing to do that? I think that's a pretty good deal for both sides. Don't love Godwin, though, but I do think that is an interesting area there. Now, the other deals that I kind of going for, I'm not going to read all three of them. You could stop it and kind of dive into it if you want. The one I thought was the most interesting was Jayden Daniels in a second for Dak in a first. I do think Dak is getting kind of slept on right now when you're looking at his ADP, QB 16-ish range right around there. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year, and you get a first back. And rookie quarterbacks are no, smash. We've seen this with Bryce Young. We've seen this with Trey Lance, Justin Fields. We've seen kind of the misses. So if you can get a first back for that, I kind of like that tier down, right? And it's not too much of a tier down because he's QB 12 overall. I kind of like the Dak side. I know I'm a Cowboys fan, full disclosure, but I still think that he is a value out there. All right, let's go through Malik Nabers. 104 ADP, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 9 right now on keep trade cut, which is a little lower. He was at wide receiver 7-ish before the Giants took him, so he got the Giants downgrade. Wide receiver 7 for us, though. We still think he's up there. Again, analysis and depth chart, he's going to be the wide receiver 1 in the Giants. What that looks like, I don't know, but I still think that Drew Lock's going to have an opportunity to play there. I still think they're going to scheme him open, and he's the only guy in that offense. He's going to get targets and the usage, so you follow that. Now, as far as trades going right now, Malik Nabers straight up for Garrett Wilson. I think that's an interesting value point, right? I love Garrett Wilson. I wouldn't mind going that route with Aaron Rodgers being there for at least this year. But again, you're kind of in quarterback hell if Rodgers decides to leave, kind of with Malik Nabers. Now, who do you think is more talented? I think that's the question that you have to look in yourself in the mirror if you're going to make that deal, because you got to say, hey, who is the more talented player there? Another one for a contender out there, Malik Nabers for Christian McCaffrey. So if you're like, hey, I want CMC, I'm a running back away, and that's a scary thought, but if you're a running back away and you're like, hey, I'm going to go grab him this year and I'm going to go compete, that's where his value is going for right now. The next one that I think is interesting that I'm smashing all day, I don't care what you haters are saying, Anthony Richardson and Malik Nabers for Worthy, Addison, and Burrow. Man, give me the upside with Richardson there over Burrow. I understand that. Addison and Worthy, to me, that equals Nabers, but I do think Anthony Richardson has top 5 upside. I think it's a fair deal, but I think that's a fun one. If you can try to get Anthony Richardson and Malik Nabers in a deal, you definitely, I think, have to kick the tires on that. Now, we're going to Drake Maye. He's at 105 QB3. I think his is the biggest one. You see the dip there ever since he went to the Patriots. I wrote about him in our newsletter. We talked about, hey, Jacoby Brissett might start for them. Hey, we're worried about some things he needs to work on. Again, they talked about him not being comfortable under center, something that we've talked about here on the channel, that he's 90% of his snaps are probably out of the shotgun. So there's little things that they're going to have to learn how to deal with Drake Maye. He's got to go there. But, man, QB 18 is a pretty low. To me, he might be worth a buy as we're kind of looking at these deals that's going on here. Let's take a look. So Drake Maye in a first for Dak in a second. Again, kind of that rebuilding mindset there. As much as I love Dak, I love whatever side that first is coming back. I think is a pretty good deal there. Now, next one, JSN and Drake Maye for Brock Bowers and Jonathon Brooks. Again, you're looking at super flex values, right? Drake Maye to me is a super flex value there. Tank Dell, Devon and Shan, Drake Maye for CJ Stroud. That's a price for CJ, right? But I don't mind that price thinking of what he can be. But that's just an interesting kind of rebuild kind of area. Again, though, I'm going to rebuild around CJ Stroud. I'm probably not moving him. And if I do move CJ Stroud, you should be moving him for a better quarterback prospect than Drake Maye, right? Anthony Richardson comes to mind, one of those guys in that Caleb Williams tier. Now, as you go through here, Drake Maye for Jalen Waddle. Drake made a first for Jordan Love. So if you're not a huge Jordan Love guy and you get that first back, I think that one was interesting. And then Drake Maye, Deontay, and a second for Anthony Richardson. So you're seeing a lot of deals like that with Drake Maye. People aren't just going to pivot off of him because of some camp noise, but he's one to watch as we kind of progress through the offseason. If you're still hearing negative thoughts, if Jacoby wins that job, I still think Drake Maye could be a buy later in the offseason. Now, wrapping up the first 6 picks here, Rome Odunze coming in at wide receiver 15 on Keep Trade Cut, wide receiver 20 here at TDR. So we're a little lower on Rome than most. Maybe me, not so much Christian. But if we're looking at this, I think we've talked about it, but I think with Rome, he's that JSN mold where, hey, he's going to have to wait behind Allen and he's going to have to wait behind DJ Moore. He's probably going to get in there on those 3 wide receiver sets. How much is the volume going to be there? How many targets going to be? But you're really buying for next year. You're looking at Rome being a next year prospect. Now, what those trades look like right now, though, I don't think his value is as low as people think. Rome Odunze and Nico for AJ Brown and Ladd. So basically, you get a tier up at AJ over Nico, and then you have to tear down a little bit to Ladd. But there's a scenario where Ladd might have more PPR points than Rome Odunze this year. I don't think that's out of the question mark, right? Damian Pierce Rome for Rashad White and Calvin Ridley. Again, I'll smash the Rome side on that. I like White and Calvin Ridley, but I think Rome has the upside there. This is a contender rebuilder kind of deal. Rome for Tyreek Hill. Some other ones I thought were interesting. If you want to tier up to get Amon-Ra, you add a 26 first, which is not a bad deal there, especially with what Rome's value is right now, is where it might be in the middle of the year if he's just not seeing the targets. And the other one, Rome and Jayden Reed for Garrett Wilson. Give me Garrett Wilson. Smash that on the Garrett Wilson side. I think Garrett Wilson's an undervalued asset right now. All right, 107. We got J.J. McCarthy. Right now, he's getting valued at QB19. We have him at QB20. He has seen a rise because he landed in Minnesota. Everybody loves the landing spot. Only Sam Darnold there. He should be able to beat him out, right? But I think that there is going to be some learning curve with him. Now, what are the trades going for right now? J.J. McCarthy for Rashee Rice in a first. Josh Downs, J.J. in a third for Drake Maye, right? J.J. and Michael Penix Jr. for Kyler Murray. If I could tier up for Murray and I got to add 2 rookies, do that all day, smash that, like this video, then go trade that, right? If you have those 2 guys, you can get Kyler Murray there. J.J. McCarthy, Justin Jefferson for Josh Allen in a first. So this is where you really tearing up as a quarterback, but you got to give up an elite wide receiver to do that. You get that first back. Maybe you turn that first into Luther Burden, Tedoroa McMillan, some of these wide receivers that are coming out. Keenan Allen and JJ for Joe Burrow. Again, if you're looking for that elite quarterback, I kind of like the Joe Burrow side there if I could just get him for Allen and McCarthy. And then McCarthy a first and a second for Deshaun in a first. I actually kind of like the JJ side in this one. I like Deshaun as a kind of a sleeper, but I like the upside with JJ in that offense, and I know I can trust him a little bit more. He's younger, and he's in a better offensive system there. Now, as we get kind of lower here, we're going to start seeing values kind of definitely switch a little bit, right? So Keep Trade Cut has Brock Bowers still at tight end 2. We have him at tight end 6, so we're a little bit lower on him than most, but not ultimately low. He's still a top 6 guy. Excuse me. And I don't think the tier is that bad in that tier. So when you're looking at the top 6 guys, they're really just interchangeable. Sam Laporta might be up there, but some touchdown swinging the other way. One of these guys might fit there. I do think Brock is a slot guy, so he's going to be able to earn targets out of the slot. So you're going to like that there. Depth chart, you don't love the quarterback play. That's really where it is with Brock Bowers in that area there. Now, as far as trades going for Brock, Dontavian Wicks and Brock for Olave and Conklin. Brock and Tony Pollard for Devonta Chan, Raheem Mostert, and Greg Dulcich, okay? Brock for Elijah Moore T in a third. Brock for Kenneth Walker. So they're all across the board here. I thought this one was interesting that I saw happen. I don't know how much you can do this in a league, but if you can, Brock Bowers and Trey Benson for Breece Hall. There could be an argument that Breece Hall should be running back 1 and we're just down on him over Bijan, right? Like if you can tie 2 rookies to go get Hall, you definitely do that. You go find that fish in your league, right? You go sucker him in there. Brock Bowers for Cooper Kupp in a second. I do think that's an interesting play for like a contender. Hey, they're like, hey, I can go get Cooper Kupp value, get a second back, and might be able to target another tight end in that area. Godwin and Bowers for Noah Fant, Malik Nabers. So if you're trying to tier up to Malik, you're going to have to throw in Godwin, which I don't think is a bad price there. And then the last one, Bowers, Douglas, Algier for Ladd, Theo, and Tyjae Spears. To me, you're looking for the best asset in that one, and that is Brock Bowers. Although Theo Johnson is a fun stash that we talked about on our Stashes podcast this week. All right, now we got Xavier Worthy coming in at wide receiver 4 for ADP, wide receiver 26 on Keep Trade Cut, and in wide receiver 29. And one thing you're going to find about all these guys going in the back end of the range, they're pretty much all on the same tier, right? We know what Xavier Worthy is. We know he's paired with Patrick Mahomes. We love that. We know Rashee Rice cannot stay out of his own way right now, so he could get more usage. You're going to get more volume there. As far as trades going, though, this is one of those ones where you might be able to tier up and use that kind of that value bump that we've seen with Rashee and maybe get someone else that you really like. So Worthy in a second for Tank Dell in a first. People were really all about that early on last year with Tank Dell. He's tied to CJ Stroud. Plus you get a first. Not a bad play. I think people are a little scared off with Stephon Diggs. I don't know why. If you watch Diggs play, I'm not sure why you're scared of that. And then some other deals here. Dalton Kincaid, Bryce Young, JSN, T. Higgins. If you feel like T. Higgins could be that guy, wide receiver 2 for Joe Burrow next year, wide receiver 1 somewhere, could be interesting to kind of flip Worthy, go with that kind of that rookie craze and go get another asset. Now, next guy, Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver 5 overall right now in ADP. Him and Worthy are kind of flipped, though. It just depends on the draft you're in. Keep Trade Cut, 28, 32 here. We like him. He could be the wide receiver 1. He fits Trevor Lawrence's style. I think his ability to kind of be that big body receiver in the red zone, give Trevor Lawrence a guy to just kind of throw it up to that he hasn't had since college, probably. I think that's interesting for Brian Thomas Jr. As far as deals right now, Dontavian Wicks and Bo Nix. If I can get that, I'd probably swing for Brian Thomas. McBride, Brian Thomas, and Aaron Rodgers for Joe Burrow and Pat Freiermuth. I think that was interesting, but I love the Trey McBride side, right? And again, you're going to tear down Aaron Rodgers, but if that's your QB2, if you have another option at QB1, that's a fun deal for a win now team. Brian Thomas for JSN. So JSN's kind of getting thrown around there with all these guys receivers in the back end. You're basically either re-rolling or you like JSN's outlook for this year. Brian Thomas for Bryce, Will Levis and Brian Thomas for Jordan Love. And you see the deals there. For George Pickens, I would love the George Pickens side. If you can flip Brian Thomas Jr. for George Pickens, I think you go do that in your leagues and you go to the bank on that one. Now, wrapping up the last 2 picks here, Jonathon Brooks coming in running back 11. Keep Trade Cut. We have at 23, so maybe we're a little lower on them. His value is definitely shot through the roof, as you can see there from Keep Trade Cut. I mean, and he doesn't have like a clear backfield. Chuba Hubbard is there. I understand that when you're thinking of like Carolina and you're thinking of Miles Sanders and like, hey, they're not very good. Neither is that offensive line. And I think that Brooks is going to have, I think he's going to be good. I like Brooks. I actually like Brooks more than anybody. That's why it's funny that everybody's going to be like, you hate him. No, I liked him. I liked him coming out. I comped him Le'Veon Bell in college. I really saw that in his game. But I think he could have a slow start. So if he's going to have a slow start, you're going to see his value definitely dip a little bit. It's already kind of started to, but it's at its peak right now that we've seen in this offseason. So here's the deals that are going out there. Brooks in a first for Saquon in a second. Still like the Brooks side there because I'm getting the first back. But some other ones. Jonathon Brooks for Devon Chain. Interesting. Brooks for Josh Jacobs. I think that one's interesting as well. Brooks in a second for Tank Dell. Maybe you take that value. You'll go get a wide receiver that you think could be a low-end wide receiver 1. Brooks and Jayden Reed for Jonathan Taylor. Maybe Jonathan Taylor's not being valued correctly. He should be a top 5 guy in that tier 1 of group. He's kind of in that tier 2 of running backs. Maybe we should use Brooks and some other asset to go get Taylor, and that is the move to be made right now in Dynasty. And the other one, Brooks and Burks and JSN for Keenan Allen and CMC. You could do that package, use Brooks's value now to go get a CMC and go try to win your league. Remember, the whole goal of this is to win your league, not be the value kings. Don't be the value kings. Last guy here in the first round, we have Ladd McConkey coming in at wide receiver 6, 112. Again, very similar when you're thinking of Keep Trade Cut and TDR, 29 and 30 wide receiver. I think I like his spot, but again, he's going to have to be efficient with his targets, and that's the same thing with Herbert. We're going to be a run-heavy offense, needs to be efficient there. As far as trades going right now, going all across the board, I think these are interesting. A first for Ladd McConkey in 2027. Ladd McConkey in a first for Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you want to tier up, you add that late first to Ladd. I think that's a hell of a deal. If you think your first is going to be late and you're like, hey, I'm looking at this and I have a pretty stacked team. If you can tie Ladd in a first for Amon-Ra, you go do that, right? Ladd in a first for George Pickens. Ladd in a second for Chris Olave. Again, you're looking at how can I tier up? You throw in some seconds here. You can start getting into that, wide receiver 10 to 15 range in there because that's a big jumble of guys. And if you have Ladd and people are excited about his spot with Herbert, you can kind of capitalize on that. This last one I thought was interesting. Ladd, Jayden Daniels in a first for Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson. Again, if you want the stack with Zay and Lamar, you like Lamar's upside there. I think that's a fair deal. Like when I'm looking at that deal, that's 50-50 to me. It's a lot of fun. Now, to wrap this up, we're going to be talking about second round trades, guys that are kind of going to that second round and kind of going through here. I picked up my favorite ones, and it wasn't everybody, but Bo Nix for Jermaine Burton in a first. You might be able to get first. Jermaine Burton, maybe wide receiver 2 next year for the Bengals. Keon Coleman has all kinds of value out there. People are kind of making fun of Keon Coleman's value, and they're talking about him being a bust and all that stuff. But I tell you what, in leagues out there, he's got some value. Coleman and Rattler for Kirk and Cousins. You can kind of tear up that quarterback spot and go get Kirk, who's a value. Keon Coleman and Olave for Garrett Wilson. Jordan Addison, Trey Benson for A.J. Brown. So, again, using those kind of that rookie love out there, that rookie hype with, Trey, Jordan Addison. Many expected him to kind of be that wide receiver too. But again, you're doing that with J.J. McCarthy now or Sam Darnold. Go get tear up and go get A.J. Brown, right? Blake Corum's going for Musgrave and Polk. Adonai Mitchell for Amari Cooper. And it's disgusting to say, but I think Amari Cooper might be a value out there from you guys. I don't know if I would move Mitchell for Cooper, but I think it's one of those deals where Cooper could be being undervalued for a contending roster with what his price is right now. Leggett for Godwin. Again, that's pretty much just across the board. Pretty fair there. Jameson Williams and Lloyd for DK Metcalf. That was a deal that happened. It was on Fantasy Calc. I was looking at it. You might have to add something else to that side, but DK's value is kind of shifting down a little bit. I think there's some room to kind of wiggle in there and kind of use the package for DK in there. And then you have Michael Penix Jr. going there for Gus and James. And then you have Bryce Young in a first, Michael Penix for Justin Fields, for Aaron Rodgers and Evan Ingram. So there are some interesting deals in those areas. So, I hope this helps. Went through a bunch of trades here to help you kind of navigate your Dynasty League. What are those rookies going for? As always, drop them in the chat. That's why we're here. Comment, what deals you got going for there? What deals did you like in the video? What deals you're like, hey, that would never happen in my league because I only play in badass leagues, as you guys all say. But let me know what you think. Let me know what your values are. Let me know, hey, should you be pivoting it off and maybe going up and tearing up with some of these veteran guys over these rookies? So appreciate you guys. As always, check out the Patreon. Anything to help. Any monetary $5 a month for all this, plus the guide, all this other stuff that we do in the Substack that we have. Go check it out. At least go look at it. Maybe jump in the Discord. It's only $1. All right. Appreciate you guys.